What is up, guys? Welcome back to the channel. Welcome to another episode. Today's a bit of a special episode because I'm going to be diving into something that's not really discussed, and that is how to actually get started in motorsport and racing. If you're an enthusiast, if you're coming from one discipline like off-road riding or something else, cycling, whatever, and you want to get involved in motorsport, motor racing, then this is how to do it. So this forms part of the series on really how to start racing, and I'm busy building a real budget car based on that series. But in this episode, we're going to focus on 6 essential steps you need to take to basically get started. It's pretty simple. It's just, this is what I've found that you need to do that basically works. If you follow it in this sequence, it'll save you a lot of money, time, headache in the long run. So let's jump into it. Step number 1. Find a race series you identify with. A race series and a class that you will find yourself happy with. Now, why is this important? Well, this defines the way forward on how you're actually going to execute this plan on really getting started in the most efficient way. It's important to find the best series for you possible. For example, a series where you will have the most fun, a series where you feel like you will fit in, a series with people of similar age and similar interests, or it could be a possible stepping stone in your race career. But whatever your driving factor, whatever your goals are, you need to find a series that's gonna work for you. Maybe the priority is to get on with other people, to meet new people, to develop your driving skills. Maybe it's to step back and the previous series or whatever were too political and you just feel like you want to have more fun with it, or whatever your goals are, you need to find the series that works for you, and that will define the next step. What is step 2? Step 2, get yourself a car. That means finding the right car that's going to work in the class for the series you have chosen. Now, there's different ways to do this. In my experience, I've found buying a used car is the cheapest, easiest way to get into that specific class or series, category of racing. Be it a spec formula series or just open series, a time attack, whatever it is, buying a used car is always the cheapest way. You can, if you're an enthusiast, you can build your own car, and that's what I've done, but it is a lot more time consuming. Not everybody has access to specific resources to do all of this, and it is a lot more expensive. You can bank on more than double the cost of purchasing a used car. The other thing about building a car is that there is a lot of development that needs to take place once you have executed the project. So once you've taken your car and you've converted it into a race car, and you need to do it according to the rules, you need to then take it to the track and develop the car. So what does develop mean? It means iron out all the kinks, the bugs, the snags, the punches, whatever you want to call them, and get all of that done first. Then you need to go and find all the little things that need to be upgraded over and above or everything that you've done already on the car. So when you buy a second-hand car, a lot of the time this has been done already. There might still be a small list of things, but most of the time, especially if you get a good second-hand car, used car, it is most of that kind of stuff has been done. And you just need to kind of dial the car into you, maybe some small upgrades, whatever, but it's always cheaper and easier to buy a used car. But the disadvantage is that you don't get to build it and have all the fun building the car. Once you identify the class you want to race in, you need to go through the rules and figure out what is it that you are and are not allowed to do. Are you allowed to change the suspension coilovers on your car? Are you allowed to, or do you have to run a specific type of coilover? Do you have to run a specific type of tire? What brake pads do you need to use? What ride heights do you need to run the car at? What engine specifications do you need? This is all important because if you're building a car or even buying a car, you need to ensure that the car is legal to those specs. Some classes run it on a time-based thing, purely time-based. What you then need to do is once you get your car, you need to test it based on those times. Step 3. Get your safety gear. This is why it is so important to understand what series and what class you're going to race in, because it then defines what safety equipment will be required. Now, just keep it in mind that some of these steps might vary in whatever country you're in. The safety requirements might vary whatever country you're in, whatever series you race in. It's all dependent on the regulatory bodies, but ultimately you need to also think carefully, because there's an old saying in motorsport, $10 head, $10 helmet. That means basically if you're willing to spend the least amount of money possible on your safety equipment, well, what is your life or injuries, etc. really worth? So my philosophy is that always spend the right money in the right places. Safety equipment is really a big deal. I've done another episode on this before, but ultimately what the basic stuff you need in general is a really good safety helmet, fireproof, FIA approved. You need a good FIA fireproof suit, possibly underwear depending on the series you're in, a Hans device to protect your neck. You need the right gloves, Nomex fireproof gloves, socks, race boots, and then whatever safety equipment you need in the car. Again, go and look at the rule book, figure out what are the basic requirements. If you're buying a used car, a lot of the time the car already has that equipment. However, a lot of the time, if you're building a car, you're back at the same story. So figure out what you need. Is it a handheld fire extinguisher, a striker, or do you need a plumbed in fire extinguisher system? Safety nets, harnesses. What do you need for a seat? Do you need a wraparound? Do you need a normal conventional seat? Safety switches, roll cage thickness. There's so many elements that go into it. Your ballast weight, where must that be placed, and how must it be placed, and how must it be secured, etc, etc, etc. There's a lot of these very, very technical things. A lot of the time, most series in South Africa, probably around the world, they require you to use locking wire on your sump plug. There's so many of these elements, and you need to sit and figure out what all needs to be done and what all needs to be purchased up front so that you can conform to the rules. Step 4. Now, I advise that once you have your car and once you have your safety equipment, do some track days before you actually join and enter a race. This will give you confidence in your car and your driving ability and just getting around the track safely. Because once you're in a race, it is a lot more overwhelming with all of the cars around you and everything that's happening. And if based on everything you have to deal with in the race, the last thing you want to do is not be comfortable behind the wheel of the car. So I would say do at least 4 to 5 track days in the car before you enter a race, especially if it's a new car. It just gives you confidence in the car and what is the car doing. Maybe there's some things you need to sort out with the handling or just the braking or whatever, just your confidence. I would also advise doing the track day at the track you're going to race first. So if it's your local track, figure out the calendar and see when that race is going to be at your local track and do a bunch of track days. Build up your confidence and your awareness with other cars, and then when the race comes, you know the track, you're confident just in the track, navigating the track, and then you can deal with the next challenges, which are qualifying and having other cars around you in a race and staying out of trouble and protecting your line or not, or just finishing the race, whatever your goal may be. But I would say definitely do at least 5 track days before your first race. Alright, step 5. Join the club. Join whatever club or race series it is you want to participate in. A lot of the time, in order for you to get your license, your race license, you need to be a member of the association you're going to be racing in. So the basic steps are get hold of the club and go and see them. Ideally, you would have done this basically when you identify which series you're going to race in. You go to the track, speak to the guys on the ground, speak to the guys in the class, find out who's the chairman. You go and speak to them. Just identify the process of joining the club. Get the contact details, go to their website, and get the basic process. A lot of the time, it's a simple process. You fill in a form based on your experience. They'll have some or other criteria. You then pay your membership fee and you join the club. Which leads us to step 6, the final step, and that is getting your race license. Once you have joined the club, you then go to your governing body. In South Africa, we call it Motorsport South Africa. You then go onto their website, and then there's a procedure in order to get your license. In the UK, it's completely different. You have to go and do a license. There's a written license, and based on my understanding, there's an actual physical license as well. And there's certain things you need to pass. South Africa, it's slightly different, but ultimately, you need to do the test to ensure that you get a license based on the category you want to race. So if it is a regional or it's a club championship, you then get the license specific to that series. So in other words, go and find the series based on the drop-down lists and figure out what series you are now a member of and where you're going to race, and that will define what type of race license you need to get. And once you've got that race license, or once you've identified that, then you can follow the steps on getting the license and doing the test, whether it be a theoretical and a driven test, or a practical test, or it's just a theory test, whatever the criteria may be. Once you've done the test, you will then get a license. And once you have your license, I think you have to send it on to the committee of your series to ensure that they are aware that you do have your license. So those are the 6 basic steps. Once you have gotten your license, you are pretty much done and you are ready to go and enter a race. Hopefully you have done the 5 track days, and you will then be able to move on and actually go and do a race. So most of the time, in order to actually do a race, what you do is the club will send you the information required to actually race that race. Normally it is an entry form. You then go through the regulations for the race. You fill in the entry form. You submit the entry form with your entry fee and your race license, and you secure your spot to do the race. Once you've secured your spot, your entry is done. That's not the end of the story, but I will cover the details of an actual race day in an upcoming episode. But that's going to be it for now. Thank you so much for watching, guys. If you're enjoying the Ford Fiesta build, this is one of the steps we need to take in order to do our first race in the Ford Fiesta, which is the fun factor Fiesta, whatever we want to call it. But basically, it is a budget race car and a budget way of going racing. So that'll kind of show you what steps to take to actually build this cheapest, most simple race car possible. And that's what I'm trying to achieve. And in the end, we will take that thing and apply these principles and go and race. So thanks so much for watching, guys. It's a bit of a different episode. We'll be back onto the Ford and the BMW stuff soon. But thanks so much for watching, and thank you for all your support. We'll keep it coming, and see you guys next time. Ciao.